Team Solo Mid is a household name in esports and is pretty much synonymous with North American League of Legends because of its large fan base exemplified by the consistent TSM chants from the crowds at events. But their popularity makes a lot of sense. Team Solo Mid is one of the original professional League of Legends teams and, historically speaking, is the winningest team in North American history. Since the inception of the LCS in 2013, their total regular season record is a staggering 196 wins and 96 losses. On top of that, they have won 6 of the possible 14 championships and have yet to miss a single playoffs in the LCS. TSM has never been a bottom team in the entirety of its organizational history. And holding true to their name, they have had Bjergsen as a pillar of excellence in the mid lane since 2013, who has arguably been one of the best, if not the best, mid laner for every split since joining Team Solo Mid. However, the previous 2 seasons came as a surprise for TSM fans in the region because, despite their consistent performances, TSM was unable to qualify as one of the teams to represent North America on the world stage after representing the region for 6 seasons in a row from 2012 to 2017. Coincidentally, 2 seasons ago is when TSM famously decided to move on from Doublelift, the winningest player in North American history, to import what was considered to be the best bottom lane in Western League of Legends at the time in Sven and Mithy. On TSM's farewell post for Doublelift, they stated that, with our goal of winning worlds in mind, it would have been disingenuous not to consider available players during the preseason whom could rival our current bot lane in skill, but fill our shot calling gaps. We truly believe that this decision has resulted in a roster with the highest chance of winning worlds. Team Solo Mid has not qualified for the World Championship since making this move, and Doublelift has went on to win the next 4 LCS titles in a row. All hope is not lost for Team Solo Mid. For the upcoming 2020 Spring Split, TSM has made 3 roster moves to address the struggles of the 2019 season. They have picked up Dardoch in the jungle, imported a new bot laner in Kabe, and reacquired Biofrost from CLG as their support. These roster moves are definitely intriguing because they come with a mixture of both skepticism and optimism. And before I dive into the individual roster changes, I want to take a look at TSM's overall team performance in the most recent split to give us a better understanding behind the reasoning of the changes that they made. Team Solo Mid was an average team in the LCS throughout the 2019 summer season, and they didn't really stand out in any of the team statistics in particular. If anything, they were performing average to below average statistically, especially when it came to early to mid-game indicators such as First Blood, First Tower, First Dragon, and First Baron, which are usually indicators of a team that can generate leads or get an advantage in the early to mid-game. And then, despite showing what seems to be better stats in the regional qualifiers, they still ultimately lost the series to Clutch Gaming and failed to qualify for World. Clearly, TSM had a lot of issues going on, and changes were needed if they wanted to meet their goal of Worlds. When reviewing the season altogether, it's easy for us viewers to point out the jungle position as a struggle for the team as a whole because of their instability at the position throughout the split. They were one of the only teams to have 3 junglers during the season, and fans were unsure of which player would be taken into playoffs as part of the final roster. But before I get to the jungle position, I actually want to talk about TSM dropping Sven for Kabe. These players play in different leagues with different competition at the position, so it is hard to make assumptions just based on these stats. Sven is by no means a bad carry, and it's interesting to see that he was the second in damage per minute and damage percentage in the league, which is probably what should happen when you're leading the league in gold share for your team. Kabe was mostly an average AD carry in the LEC, but it is interesting to see that he led the league in CS per minute. But I don't really think these stats exemplify why TSM made the roster move at that AD carry position. I had the privilege of attending LCS Week 9, Day 1 of the Summer Split last season, and the game that really stood out to me that day was the TSM versus FlyQuest game, because I could not believe how TSM got away with a win after what seemed like a complete throw from Sven. Sven needed to buy Speak a dinner after this game because he single-handedly saved the game by stealing the Baron. At the time, I thought it was an unusual but ridiculous blunder by a veteran AD carry like Sven. But as I went back to watch the film, I noticed that Sven actually got caught out a lot at crucial moments in a lot of games last season. If you're a playoff contending team, you cannot afford to have your carry die for free in a crucial late game moment multiple times. On the other side of this roster move, Kabe is an AD carry that had strong performances in playoffs and regionals to take his team to the World Championship. His play really stood out to me as being pretty safe, but also knowing when to go in and take advantage of an opportunity. Being able to output high DPS in crucial moments for his team in the game. He is a consistent player and now has international experience under his belt. If he plays similarly to his previous split and doesn't make late game mistakes, this is a roster move that I could see panning out for TSM. The next move is also in the bottom lane with the support role. Team Solo Mid decided to bring back Biofrost, the support that they had when they won 3 consecutive LCS titles. When we compare the stats in the previous split between Biofrost and Smoothie, it seems like Biofrost outperformed Smoothie statistically by a small margin, and for the most part had similar champion pools, although I'd give a slight edge to Biofrost because he played champions with more different styles. This is probably the roster move that is the least concerning for TSM, and I imagine picking up Biofrost had something to do with the team dynamic that they were aiming for. Biofrost has played on TSM before, so I think that they know what they're getting, and ultimately I think that this roster move is just a slight upgrade mechanically. It will be exciting to see the overall strength of TSM's bottom lane in the upcoming split. And now let's get into the most interesting and probably most needed change when it comes to TSM's roster from last season. I mentioned earlier that TSM was only one of 2 teams that had 3 starting junglers throughout the split, and statistically none of them really performed well. Maybe it's a symptom of TSM's playstyle or the roster shakeups that lead to the poor performances from the junglers, but it is noticeable that all 3 of them have negative gold and experience differentials at 10 minutes. The TSM junglers had poor creep score numbers, which would be fine if they were getting leads elsewhere, but they also didn't have great first blood percentages, and we saw earlier that the team struggled in early game objectives like dragons and first towers. The disparity in the jungle was a huge issue for TSM because jungle mid synergy is an extremely important part of the metagame, and these constant changes lead to a lack of consistency and overall identity for the team, which is not something that you want as the eligibility for the World Championship is approaching. The jungle role was a glaring issue for TSM, and now they believe that Dardoch will be the one to bring stability to the roster. This is the roster move that I think has a level of skepticism that comes with it, and I honestly did not see this coming at all. Dardoch did not play in the LCS last split, and only played 6 games in the spring split before this. We have to go back to the 2018 season to get an idea of Dardoch's in-game ability for a full split, and to be honest, his stats look great. Dardoch dominated the 2018 season on Echo Fox. He was at the top of the league when it came to experience and creep score differential, meaning that he was consistently getting himself ahead of the opposing jungler. He also contributed to his team with high damage stats throughout the splits. I also think that Dardoch deserves credit for having a wide champion pool, being able to play all the different junglers at a high level, and even the funnel strategy when it was in the meta for a short time. There were games where Dardoch straight up carried the team. I mean, no one is really doubting Dardoch's skill as a player. When he has played a full split, he has consistently been a top jungler in the LCS. However, his toxic behavior has plagued his career. He's been picked up and dropped by many teams, each team thinking they can handle his behavior, saying that this time it's going to be different, and then realizing it's not and moving on after 1 split or less. TSM has a firm owner in Reginald who has a history of stepping in to command the team. Hopefully with Reginald's firmness, Bjergsen's seniority, or a reformed attitude from Dardoch, TSM can truly channel his skill because at his peak performance, he is insane. The mid-jungle 2v2 synergy is really what was missing from TSM last season, and hopefully Dardoch can remedy these problems. When it comes to Team Solo Mid's new roster, on paper, the roster is stacked and can contend with any team in the league. But as TSM has learned these last few years, being a great team is more than just assembling a roster of good players. They have to trust each other, communicate well, develop an identity, and ultimately cover each other's weaknesses in the game. I try to refrain from using this word, but TSM has potential, and this time, it might be different. Hey everyone, thanks for watching my video, and make sure to destroy that like button if you enjoyed the analysis, and subscribe to my channel so that you can be updated with my new content. I'm super excited for the LCS to start this week, and I'm planning on doing more narrative videos as well as individual game breakdowns. Let me know what you think in the comments below. See you next time.